My husband's therapy sessions were every Friday until his therapist called me saying he'd missed 3 weeks. Hi, everyone. Before we get into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel's reach has been dropping a bit, and one of the best ways you can support us is by subscribing. It's quick, free, and helps us keep bringing you new and interesting stories. Your support means the world to us, and together we can grow this channel. Thank you so much. Now let's get to today's story. I'm writing from a temporary account for obvious reasons, and I've changed some details to protect my anonymity. I thought I was doing the right thing by supporting him. I thought I was being the wife he needed during his darkest time. I thought therapy was saving our marriage. I was wrong about all of it. Let me start from the beginning, back when things were still good between us, before the silence crept in and made a home in the space where love used to live. I met Daniel when I was 26 at a friend's wedding. He was the best man. I was a bridesmaid, and we got paired together for the processional. Cliché, I know. But sometimes clichés happen for a reason. He made me laugh during the rehearsal dinner with his spot-on impression of the overly enthusiastic wedding planner. He held my hand during the ceremony when I started crying at the vows. He danced with me at the reception until my feet hurt, and then he carried my shoes while we walked to get late-night pizza. By the end of that weekend, I was completely gone for him. We dated for 2 years before he proposed. It was perfect. Everything I'd ever wanted. He took me back to the restaurant where we'd had our first official date and got down on one knee right there between the appetizer and the entree. I said yes before he even finished asking. The first 5 years of our marriage were everything I'd hoped for. We bought a small house in the suburbs with a backyard for the dog we planned to get. We hosted dinner parties for our friends. We took weekend trips to the mountains. We talked about having kids someday when the time was right. We were building a life together, brick by brick, moment by moment. But somewhere around year 6, things started to shift. It was subtle at first. Daniel started staying late at work more often. He was up for a promotion at his software company, and the pressure was intense. I understood. I made dinner and kept it warm for him. I told him I was proud of how hard he was working. I believed in him. He got the promotion. I thought things would get better after that the stress would ease and we'd get back to normal. But instead, he seemed to withdraw further. The late nights continued. The conversations got shorter. The distance between us grew wider. I tried to bridge the gap. I planned date nights that he'd cancel at the last minute. I'd suggest weekend getaways that he'd say we couldn't afford, even though his promotion had come with a significant raise. I'd try to initiate intimacy, and he'd claim he was too tired, too stressed, too distracted. Our sex life, which had once been passionate and frequent, dwindled to once a month, then once every few months, then hardly at all. When we did have sex, it felt mechanical, like he was going through the motions to keep me from complaining. I told myself it was just a phase. Marriage had its ups and downs. Everyone went through rough patches. We'd get through this. Then came the night that changed everything, or so I thought at the time. It was a Thursday evening, about a year ago. I came home from work to find Daniel sitting at the kitchen table, staring at nothing. His eyes were red, his face pale. For a moment, I thought someone had died. Dan? I set my bag down carefully. What's wrong? What happened? He looked at me and his eyes were so hollow it made my chest ache. I'm not okay. Those 3 words. I'd been waiting to hear them for months, waiting for him to acknowledge that something was wrong, that we needed to fix it. I rushed to him, knelt beside his chair, took his hands in mine. Tell me. Talk to me. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out together. I think. He swallowed hard. I think I need help. Professional help. I think I'm depressed. Relief flooded through me, not because he was suffering, but because he was finally admitting it, finally willing to do something about it. This was the first step. This was how we'd get back to each other. Okay, I said, squeezing his hands. Okay, that's good. That's really good that you recognize that. We'll find you someone. A good therapist. I'll help you research, make calls, whatever you need. I already found someone, he said quietly. Through my insurance. Dr. Sarah Mitchell. I called today. I have an appointment next Friday at 7. I was so proud of him in that moment. Taking initiative, being proactive about his mental health. It felt like maybe we were going to be okay. I'm so glad, I told him, meaning it with everything in me. This is going to help. You're going to feel better. We're going to feel better. He nodded, but he didn't meet my eyes. That first Friday, I came home early from work to make his favorite dinner before his appointment. Lasagna with garlic bread, the recipe I'd learned from his mother. I wanted him to know I supported him, that I was there for him through this. He came downstairs at 6:30, dressed in jeans and a button-down shirt. He looked nervous. You look nice, I said, setting the table. Thanks. He grabbed his keys, his wallet, his phone. I don't know how long this will take. That's okay. Take all the time you need. Do you want to talk about it when you get back? Or would you rather have space? I'm fine with either. Probably space, he said. I think I'll just want to decompress. Of course, whatever you need. He kissed my forehead, something he hadn't done in months, and I felt a flutter of hope. Maybe this really was the turning point. He left at 6:45. I ate dinner alone, watching the clock, wondering how it was going. Was he opening up? Was Dr. Mitchell helping him understand what he was feeling? Would he come home lighter, less burdened? He came back at 9:15. His eyes were red again, like he'd been crying. My heart broke for him. How was it? I asked gently. Hard. Really hard. But good, I think. I don't really want to talk about it right now. That's okay. Are you hungry? I saved you some dinner. No, I'm good. I think I'm just going to take a shower and go to bed. Okay. I love you. Love you too. He said it automatically, reflexively, but I clung to those words anyway. That became our new Friday routine. I'd make dinner. He'd leave at 6:45 for his 7 o'clock appointment. He'd come back around 9 or 9:30, exhausted and uncommunicative. I'd ask how it went. He'd say it was hard but good. He'd disappear into the bathroom or the bedroom, and I'd give him space. After a few weeks, I started noticing small changes. He seemed to sleep a little better. He smiled occasionally. He'd actually engage in conversation at dinner instead of just pushing food around his plate. I was so encouraged. The therapy was working. We were going to make it through this. But then, slowly, other changes started appearing. Changes that didn't fit the narrative I'd built in my head. He became protective of his phone in a way he never had been before. He'd always left it lying around, face up, passcode unlocked. Now he kept it in his pocket constantly, face down when he did set it down. And he'd changed his passcode to something I didn't know. When I asked him about it casually one day, he said his company had implemented new security protocols that required regular passcode changes. It made sense. I didn't push. He started dressing better. Not just for therapy, but in general. New shirts, new jeans, a haircut at a more expensive place than his usual barber. He started going to the gym before work, something he hadn't done since college. He lost weight, toned up, started using cologne I'd never seen before. You look great, I told him one morning as he was leaving for work. The therapy must really be helping. Yeah, he said, checking his reflection in the hallway mirror, adjusting his collar. I'm feeling better, more like myself. But the thing was, he didn't seem more like the Daniel I'd married. He seemed like someone new, someone I didn't quite recognize. And that someone still didn't want to touch me, still didn't want to spend time with me. Still felt a million miles away even when he was sitting right next to me. The Friday appointments continued like clockwork. 6:45 departure, 9-ish return. Sometimes earlier, sometimes later, but always on Friday evenings. For 6 months, every single Friday. Dr. Mitchell must be really good, I said once. You've been seeing her for half a year now. Yeah, she's great, really helping me work through some stuff. What kind of stuff, if you're comfortable sharing? He hesitated. Just old trauma, family stuff, work stress, a lot of things. It's complicated. I didn't push. I'd read articles about therapy, about how important it was to let people share in their own time, at their own pace. I was trying to be supportive, not overbearing, but I was also getting frustrated. Because 6 months of therapy, and he still barely spoke to me. 6 months of therapy, and we still hadn't had sex. 6 months of therapy, and he still acted like being home with me was something to endure rather than enjoy. Do you think we should do couples counseling? I asked one night after he'd returned from yet another session. Maybe in addition to your individual therapy? To work on us? I don't think that's necessary, he said quickly. I need to fix myself first before we can fix us. That's what Dr. Mitchell says. Dr. Mitchell talks about us? Well, yeah, you come up. You're my wife. Of course my marriage is part of what we discuss. It stung, hearing that his therapist knew more about our marriage than I did. But I swallowed the hurt. This was about him getting better. My feelings could wait. Around month 7, I started noticing that his Friday departures were getting earlier. Instead of 6:45, it became 6:30, then 6:15. When I asked about it, he said Dr. Mitchell had moved his appointment to 6:30 to accommodate her schedule. Then the returns started getting later. Not drastically, but instead of 9:15, it became 9:30, then 10, then occasionally 10:30. Long session? I'd ask. Yeah, we had a lot to unpack today. I tried to be understanding. Therapy was important. Healing took time. But there was this gnawing feeling in my gut that I kept trying to ignore, this whisper in the back of my mind that something wasn't right. One Friday, about 8 months into his therapy journey, I decided to surprise him. I'd been feeling particularly disconnected from him, and I thought maybe if I showed up with his favorite coffee and a thoughtful gesture, it might remind him that I was on his team, that I loved him, that I was worth coming home to. I left work early and stopped by the expensive coffee shop downtown that made the caramel macchiatos he loved. I looked up Dr. Mitchell's office address online, which was listed on her practice's website. According to the address, her office was in a professional building about 20 minutes from our house. I drove there with the coffee, planning to just drop it off at the reception desk with a note. I wasn't going to interrupt his session or anything invasive like that. Just a sweet gesture from a wife who missed her husband. When I got to the building, I found Dr. Mitchell's suite number and took the elevator up. The hallway was quiet, doors with frosted glass marking different practices. I found her door. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, licensed psychologist. The lights were off. I peered through the frosted glass, cupping my hands around my face. The office was clearly closed. No movement, no lights, nothing. My stomach dropped. Maybe she had evening appointments at a different location? Maybe the website was outdated? There had to be an explanation. I went back to my car and called the number listed on her website. It rang 4 times before going to voicemail. You've reached Dr. Sarah Mitchell's office. Office hours are Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. If this is an emergency, please call. Monday through Thursday. Not Friday. Friday wasn't even an option. I sat in my car in that parking lot, the coffee getting cold in my hands, my mind racing through possibilities. Maybe she made special arrangements for Daniel, seeing him after her regular hours. Maybe she worked from a different location on Fridays. Maybe he'd changed therapists and forgotten to tell me. Or maybe he wasn't going to therapy at all. That thought made me feel sick, physically ill. I didn't want to believe it. I couldn't believe it. Not Daniel. Not my husband who I'd supported through everything, who I'd given space and understanding and unconditional love. I drove home in a daze. When I got there, I poured the cold coffee down the sink and threw away the cups. I didn't tell Daniel I'd tried to surprise him. I didn't mention the closed office or the voicemail message. That night when he came home at 9:30, I asked how his session went like I always did. Good. Productive. I'm tired, though. I bet. Do you ever think about switching to a different day? Friday night sessions must be draining. Dr. Mitchell only has Friday evening availability. It's the only time that works for both of us. He lied without hesitation, without even a flicker in his expression. He looked me right in the eye and lied. I felt something inside me crack. "Okay," I said softly. "Well, I'm glad it's helping." He went upstairs and I stood in the kitchen, shaking. I didn't confront him. I know I should have. But I was terrified of what the truth might be. Because if he wasn't going to therapy, where was he going? And who was he with? For the next week, I existed in this strange state of denial and hyper-awareness. Part of me wanted to believe I'd made a mistake, that there was an innocent explanation. The other part of me started noticing everything with crystal clarity. The way he smiled at his phone when he thought I wasn't looking. The way he'd started showering immediately when he got home on Fridays. The way his car smelled faintly of perfume that wasn't mine, a scent I only noticed when I really paid attention. The way he said he loved me but never showed it. I thought about checking his phone, but he guarded it so carefully now that I'd never get the chance. I thought about following him on Friday. But what if I was wrong? What if I was being paranoid and destroyed what little trust we had left? So I did nothing. I waited. I watched. I slowly died inside every Friday night when he'd walk out that door. Until the day Dr. Mitchell called. It was a Wednesday afternoon. I was at work in the middle of reviewing a presentation for a client meeting when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Hello? Hi, is this Mrs. Parker? Daniel Parker's wife?" "Yes, this is she. Who's calling?" "This is Dr. Sarah Mitchell. I'm Daniel's therapist. Do you have a moment to talk?" My heart stopped. My whole body went cold. "Yes," I managed. "Yes, of course." "I'm calling because I'm concerned about Daniel. He's missed his last 3 appointments without calling to cancel or reschedule, and he's not responding to my messages. This is very unlike him. In our work together, he's been extremely consistent and communicative. I wanted to check in and make sure everything is all right." I couldn't breathe. The words weren't making sense. "I'm sorry, what?" "His appointments. He hasn't come to his last 3 sessions. I'm worried something might have happened. Has he been okay at home? Has there been any kind of crisis?" 3 appointments, I repeated numbly. "The last 3 Fridays?" "Yes, exactly. October 13th, 20th, and 27th. I've tried calling and emailing, but—" "Dr. Mitchell," I interrupted, my voice surprisingly steady considering my hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. "What are your office hours?" "I'm sorry?" "Your office hours. When do you see patients?" "Monday through Thursday, 9 to 5. I don't do evening or weekend appointments. Why do you—" "And you've been seeing Daniel on what day?" A pause. "Wednesdays, 2 p.m. He schedules it during his lunch break from work. Mrs. Parker, are you saying he didn't tell you?" I hung up. I sat at my desk, staring at nothing, while my entire world collapsed around me. Wednesday afternoons, not Friday evenings. Wednesday at 2 p.m. during his lunch break from work. For 8 months, every single Friday, he'd been lying to me. Getting dressed, kissing my forehead, telling me he was going to therapy and going somewhere else. To someone else. The office around me continued as normal. People walked past my desk. Phones rang. Someone laughed at the coffee machine. Life went on, completely oblivious to the fact that mine had just shattered into a million irreparable pieces. I stood up mechanically, grabbed my purse and my jacket, and walked to my boss's office. "I need to leave. Family emergency." She took one look at my face and nodded. "Go. Take care of whatever you need to take care of." I drove home on autopilot, my mind both racing and completely blank. Part of me was screaming, crying, falling apart. The other part was eerily calm, already planning, already knowing what I needed to do. When I got home, I went straight to his home office, the one room in the house he'd started locking recently, claiming he had confidential work documents. I found a screwdriver in the garage and popped the simple lock in about 30 seconds. The office looked normal at first glance. Desk, computer, filing cabinet, bookshelf, nothing suspicious, nothing obvious. But I wasn't looking for obvious anymore. I started with the desk drawers. Work files, office supplies, old receipts. Nothing. The filing cabinet was locked, but the key was in the top desk drawer, which seemed too easy, but I wasn't complaining. Inside the filing cabinet, underneath folders of tax documents and insurance papers, I found a shoebox. My hands trembled as I pulled it out and opened it. Inside were receipts, dozens of them, from restaurants I'd never been to, from a hotel downtown, from a jewelry store, from flower deliveries, all dated over the last 8 months, scattered across various Friday evenings. There were printed emails, confirmations for dinner reservations. There were photos printed out like he'd wanted physical copies. Photos of Daniel with a woman I'd never seen before. A pretty blonde woman, younger than me, smiling up at him in ways I hadn't seen him smile in years. Photos of them at restaurants, at the park, at what looked like a weekend getaway. Weekend getaway. The weekend 3 months ago when he'd said he had a business trip to Chicago. He'd come home with a small stuffed bear from Navy Pier, a gift for me to show he'd been thinking of me while he was away. In one of the photos, she was holding that exact same bear. There was a birthday card in the box, signed, "All my love, Daniel," in his handwriting. The birthday wasn't mine. There was a Valentine's Day card from this year. The Valentine's Day when he'd told me he forgot because work was so busy. He hadn't forgotten. He'd just given the card to someone else. At the bottom of the box was a lease agreement. For an apartment, not our address. Starting 6 weeks ago, with both his name and hers on it, Emma Richardson. He'd signed a lease with another woman. I sat on the floor of his office, surrounded by evidence of his double life, and I felt strangely detached from my body, like I was watching this happen to someone else. 8 months of Fridays. 8 months of lies. 8 months of me supporting him, encouraging him, proud of him for taking care of his mental health, while he was building an entire other life with someone else. The therapy had been real at first. Wednesday afternoons during his lunch break. Dr. Mitchell had said he was consistent and communicative, that he'd been working through trauma and family issues and work stress. But the Friday appointments had been fake from the start. He'd used my support of his mental health as a cover to have an affair. He'd weaponized my compassion, turned my love for him into a tool for his betrayal. I don't know how long I sat there. Long enough for the sun to start setting. Long enough for my legs to go numb. Long enough for the shock to slowly burn away, replaced by something sharper and hotter and more painful than anything I'd ever felt. I heard his car in the driveway at 6:30, early. He must not be going to therapy tonight. I stood up, my legs shaky, and walked down the stairs with the shoebox in my hands. He came through the front door, loosening his tie, scrolling on his phone. He looked up and saw me standing there. Saw the box in my hands. All the color drained from his face. "Hi, honey," I said, my voice eerily calm. "Dr. Mitchell called me today." He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came out. "She was concerned," I continued, walking toward him slowly, "because you've missed your last 3 appointments. Your Wednesday afternoon appointments. Not your Friday evening appointments. Those don't exist. They never existed. Did they? I can explain." "Don't." I cut him off. "Don't you dare try to explain this to me." I dropped the shoebox on the floor between us, photos and receipts scattered across the hardwood. He looked down at them, back at me. And in his eyes, I saw something worse than guilt. I saw relief. He was relieved that I finally knew. "How long?" I asked. "And don't lie to me anymore. You've lied enough for a lifetime." He swallowed hard. 10 months. "You've been seeing her for 10 months?" "Yes." "While telling me you were depressed and needed therapy?" The therapy was real at first. I really was depressed. But then I met her at a coffee shop near my office and we started talking and... Stop. I held up my hand. I don't want to hear about how you met her or how it started or how you fell in love or whatever romantic story you've told yourself to justify this. I do love her. He said it quietly, but firmly. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. You signed a lease with her. My voice broke on the words. You have an apartment together. I was going to tell you. I just needed to figure out the right time. The right time? The right time to tell your wife of 9 years that you've been living a double life? That every Friday for 8 months you've been with another woman while I sat at home making you dinner and being proud of you for going to therapy? I know how this looks. You don't know anything. I was yelling now, months of pain and confusion and gaslighting erupting out of me. You let me blame myself. You let me think I wasn't enough, that I was doing something wrong, that if I just gave you more space and more support, you'd come back to me. You let me feel crazy for noticing the distance between us. You used my love for you as a weapon. I never meant to hurt you. But you did. Tears were streaming down my face now. You hurt me every single Friday for 8 months. You hurt me every time you came home smelling like her perfume and let me think I was imagining it. You hurt me every time you said you loved me while you were building a life with someone else. He just stood there, looking at the floor, saying nothing. Do you even feel guilty? I asked, my voice small now, broken. Or are you just relieved you don't have to lie anymore? He looked up at me then, and his eyes were wet. I feel terrible. I never wanted it to happen this way. But I can't help how I feel. I love her. I'm sorry. And there it was. The truth I'd been avoiding for months. He didn't love me anymore. Maybe he hadn't for a long time. Maybe he never really had. Get out, I said quietly. What? Get out of this house. Go to her. Go to your apartment with your new life and your new girlfriend and your Friday nights that were never about therapy. Just get away from me. We need to talk about logistics. No, we don't. Not tonight. Tonight you leave and tomorrow I'm calling a lawyer. We can talk through them. Please, can we just... Daniel. I looked at him, really looked at him, and I didn't recognize the man standing in front of me. If you ever loved me at all, even a little bit, you'll leave right now and not make this any harder than it already is. He hesitated for a long moment. Then he nodded, grabbed his keys, and walked out the door. I stood there in the hallway, surrounded by scattered photos of my husband's betrayal, and I finally let myself completely fall apart. The next morning, I woke up on the couch, still in yesterday's clothes, my face swollen from crying. For a moment, I thought maybe it had all been a nightmare. Then I saw the photos still scattered across the floor, and reality crashed back over me. I picked up my phone and called a divorce attorney. Then I called my sister. He's been having an affair, I said when she answered. For 10 months. He's been lying about therapy and living a double life, and I just found out yesterday. I'm getting on a plane, she said immediately. I'll be there tonight. You don't have to. Yes, I do. You're not going through this alone. I called my boss next and told her I needed a few days. She was understanding, told me to take all the time I needed. Then I started going through the house systematically, room by room, looking for anything else I'd missed. I found his real therapy notes, the ones from Dr. Mitchell tucked in a folder in his nightstand. I read through them, feeling like a voyeur but needing to understand. He'd been working through childhood trauma, issues with his father, stress about living up to expectations. Dr. Mitchell had noted good progress, that he was opening up and doing the work. The notes ended 8 months ago, around the time the fake Friday appointment started. So the depression had been real. The therapy had been real. But then he'd met her, and suddenly his healing journey became an excuse for his betrayal. I found out more over the next few days as I dug deeper. Emma Richardson worked at a coffee shop near his office. She was 27, 6 years younger than me. She'd moved to the city a year ago from somewhere in the Midwest. She had no idea he was married at first. By the time she found out, she was already in love with him, and he'd convinced her he was leaving me. that it was just a matter of time. The apartment lease had started 6 weeks ago. He'd been slowly moving things out of our house. Little things I hadn't noticed. Books, clothes, personal items, building his new life piece by piece while I watched TV in the living room, completely oblivious. The Friday nights had been dates. Dinners, movies, walks in the park. All the things he'd stopped doing with me. He'd been courting her, romancing her, being the version of himself he'd locked away from me. My sister arrived that first night and held me while I cried. She helped me box up his things from our bedroom, from the closet, from the bathroom. We put them in the garage. He could get them later. The divorce attorney I hired was efficient and no nonsense. Get copies of everything, she told me. Bank statements, credit cards, those receipts you found. Document everything. This is going to be messy, but we'll get through it. I did what she said. I became a detective of my own marriage, cataloging every lie, every betrayal, every dollar spent on his double life. Daniel tried to call. I didn't answer. He sent texts, long paragraphs about how he never meant to hurt me, how he hoped we could be civil, how he wanted me to understand that people grow apart sometimes and it wasn't anyone's fault. It wasn't anyone's fault. As if this was some natural disaster we'd both fallen victim to, rather than a choice he made every single day for 10 months. I blocked his number. Dr. Mitchell called again, apologizing profusely for not realizing what was happening. She'd violated no ethics, she assured me. She hadn't known he was lying about additional appointments. She offered to speak with me if I needed to process what happened, free of charge. I didn't take her up on it. I couldn't. She represented too much of the lie, even though she'd been lied to as well. The divorce moved forward quickly. We had no children, which simplified things. The house was in both our names, but I wanted nothing to do with it anymore. Too many memories, too many ghosts. We agreed to sell it and split the proceeds. 3 months after that horrible Wednesday when Dr. Mitchell called, I signed the divorce papers in the same office where we'd signed our marriage license 9 years earlier. The irony wasn't lost on me. Daniel didn't fight me on anything. Guilt money, my sister called it. He gave me more than I was entitled to in the settlement, took on debts that should have been split, essentially paid me to go away quietly. Fine. I took the money. I'd earned it, in my own way. Payment for 8 months of gaslighting. Payment for 10 months of betrayal. Payment for 9 years of a marriage that had apparently meant nothing to him. On what would have been the 8th-month anniversary of his fake therapy appointments, I moved into a new apartment across town. 1 bedroom, big windows, hardwood floors. My sister helped me move in. Fresh start, she said, hanging up curtains in the living room. New chapter. Yeah, I agreed, trying to feel hopeful and mostly just feeling numb. But numbness was better than pain. And slowly, over the following months, the numbness gave way to something else. Not happiness, not yet. But not devastation either. Something in between. Acceptance, maybe. Or just exhaustion. I started seeing a therapist myself. A real one on Tuesday afternoons. Her name was Dr. Patricia Chen, and she helped me work through the betrayal, the self-blame, the questions that haunted me. Did I miss signs I should have seen? I asked her in one session. Probably, she said honestly. But he was actively hiding things from you. He was lying consistently and deliberately. You're not a detective. You're not supposed to have to investigate your own husband. I feel so stupid. You're not stupid. You trusted someone you loved. That's not stupidity. That's vulnerability. And yes, he took advantage of that. But that's his failing, not yours. It helped. Slowly. Painfully. But it helped. I found out through mutual friends that Daniel and Emma were still together, living in that apartment. Some of our friends took sides. Most just awkwardly tried to stay neutral. I let them all go. I didn't have the energy to maintain friendships with people who would still invite him to parties. A year after everything fell apart, I was doing okay. Not great. Not completely healed. But okay. I'd gotten a promotion at work. I'd started taking painting classes at the community center. I'd adopted a cat named Florence who slept on my chest and purred like a motor. I'd gone on a few dates that went nowhere, and I was okay with that. And I'd learned to recognize Fridays as just another day of the week. Not the day my husband pretended to go to therapy while building a secret life. Not the day I made special dinners and waited patiently for him to come home. Not the day I gave him space and understanding while he took advantage of my love. Just Friday. Another day. I'm writing this now on a Friday night, actually. Sitting in my apartment with Florence purring next to me, a glass of wine on the coffee table, soft music playing in the background. No one is lying to me. No one is pretending. No one is taking advantage of my trust. I'm alone, but I'm not lonely. There's a difference. Would I have preferred to still be married, still have the life I thought I was building? Of course. But not with someone who saw my support as an opportunity for deception. Not with someone who could look me in the eye and lie without flinching. Not with someone who valued his new relationship more than the commitment he'd made to me. I deserve better than that. We all do. Sometimes I think about Daniel and Emma. I wonder if they're happy. I wonder if she worries when he says he's working late. I wonder if he's told her about how he destroyed his first marriage, or if he's rewritten that history into something more palatable. I wonder if she knows that the man she's with is capable of sustaining lies for months on end without breaking, of compartmentalizing his life so completely that he could kiss his wife goodbye before going to see his mistress. Mostly, though, I don't think about them at all. Because here's what I've learned. You can't build a life with someone who's willing to build a secret life away from you. You can't trust someone who's proven themselves to be fundamentally untrustworthy. And you can't love someone enough to make them love you back with honesty and respect. Dr. Mitchell's phone call, as devastating as it was in the moment, was actually a gift. It pulled me out of a lie I could have lived in for years. It forced me to see the truth, no matter how much it hurt. It gave me back my agency, my choice, my power. I'm grateful for that now, even though I wasn't at the time. The day I found out the truth, I felt like my life was ending. In some ways, it was. The life I'd known, the marriage I'd believed in, the future I'd imagined, all of that died that Wednesday afternoon. But something else was born too. A version of myself that was stronger, more cautious, less willing to ignore red flags or explain away inconsistencies. A version that valued honesty above comfort, truth above wishful thinking. I ran into Daniel once, about 18 months after the divorce was finalized. I was at the grocery store reaching for apples in the produce section, and suddenly there he was, standing 3 feet away with a shopping cart. We both froze. He looked older, tired. There were lines around his eyes I didn't remember being there before. Or maybe I just hadn't been allowed to see them clearly when I was still pretending everything was fine. "Hi," he said quietly. "Hi." An awkward silence stretched between us. He opened his mouth, closed it, then tried again. "How have you been?" "Good," I said, and I meant it. Really good, actually. He nodded, looking down at his cart. I noticed he was alone. No Emma in sight. "Are you still—" I started, then stopped. "Never mind, it's none of my business." "We broke up," he said anyway. 3 months ago. I didn't ask why, I didn't care, but I could guess. Maybe she'd found out he was capable of lying. Maybe she'd started noticing him being secretive with his phone. Maybe he'd cheated on her too. Because people who cheat once tend to cheat again. Or maybe they'd just realized that relationships built on the destruction of other relationships rarely survive the guilt. "I'm sorry," I said, because it seemed like the thing to say, even though I wasn't. Not really. "I deserved it," he said, meeting my eyes. "I deserved to lose her. I deserved to lose you too. I was a coward and a liar, and I hurt the 2 people I cared most about in the world." It was the first time he'd actually taken full responsibility without qualifying it, without adding "but" or "I didn't mean to" or "people grow apart." "Yeah," I said. "You did." He flinched like I'd slapped him, but he didn't argue. "I've been in therapy," he continued. Real therapy this time. Actually showing up, actually doing the work. Dr. Chen has been helping me understand why I did what I did, why I felt like I needed to lie instead of just being honest about being unhappy. Dr. Chen. The same therapist I'd been seeing. Small world. Or maybe he'd found her name in the divorce paperwork and deliberately chosen her because he knew she was good. I'm glad you're getting help, I said. And surprisingly, I meant that too. Not for his sake, but because maybe it meant he wouldn't do this to someone else. Maybe the next woman wouldn't have to go through what I went through. I owe you an apology, he said. A real one. Not the bullshit ones I gave you before. I'm sorry for lying to you for 10 months. I'm sorry for using your support as a cover for my affair. I'm sorry for gaslighting you into thinking you were paranoid when you were actually right. I'm sorry for wasting 9 years of your life with someone who didn't value you the way you deserved. I'm so sorry. I stood there holding a bag of apples, and I waited to feel something. Satisfaction, maybe. Vindication. The catharsis of finally hearing him admit everything. But all I felt was tired. Okay, I said. Okay? Okay. Apology acknowledged. I appreciate you saying it, but it doesn't change anything. It doesn't undo what happened or make it hurt less. It's just words. He nodded slowly. I know, I needed you to know that I know how badly I fucked up. That I don't have any illusions about being the victim here. You were the victim. You were the one who got hurt. And I did that to you. Yeah, I said. You did. Another silence. Then he stepped back, gripping his cart. I should let you go. I hope you're happy, really. You deserve to be happy. I am, I told him. Not because of you or in spite of you. Just, I am. He smiled sadly. Good. That's good. Then he walked away, pushing his cart toward the dairy section, and I stood there watching him go. This man I'd once promised to love forever, who now felt like a stranger from someone else's life. I paid for my groceries and drove home to my apartment, where Florence was waiting for me on the windowsill. I made dinner, just for myself, exactly what I wanted. No compromises. I ate it while watching a show Daniel would have hated. I went to bed early with a book, sprawled across the entire mattress. No one to crowd me or make me feel unwelcome in my own bed. And I realized something. I was happy. Not in the way I'd been happy in the early days of my marriage, that giddy, optimistic, naive happiness, but in a quieter, deeper way. The happiness of knowing myself. The happiness of not having to perform or pretend or ignore my own instincts. The happiness of being enough, all by myself. The fake therapy sessions, as painful as they were to discover, had taught me something valuable. Trust your gut. When something feels wrong, it probably is. When someone's words don't match their actions, believe the actions. When you have to convince yourself that everything is fine, it's usually not. I learned to listen to that inner voice, the one I'd silenced for so long because I wanted to be supportive, understanding, patient. That voice is there for a reason. It's trying to protect you. I also learned that healing isn't linear. Some days are better than others. Some Friday nights, I still feel a phantom ache, a muscle memory of waiting for someone who never really came home. But those nights are getting fewer and farther between. Dr. Chen once asked me what I'd say to my younger self, the one who was sitting at home making lasagna, so proud that her husband was taking care of his mental health. I thought about it for a long time. I'd tell her to trust herself, I finally said, to pay attention to the feeling in her gut that something is wrong, to ask harder questions and demand real answers, to know that love shouldn't require you to ignore your own instincts or doubt your own perceptions. And would she listen? Dr. Chen asked. Probably not, I admitted. She's too invested in the story she's telling herself. She needs to believe everything is fine because the alternative is too scary. So what would make her listen? A phone call from a therapist, I said, and we both smiled grimly. Sometimes you can't learn the lesson until you're forced to. It's been 2 years now since that Wednesday afternoon phone call that changed everything. 2 years since I found out the truth about those Friday nights. 2 years of rebuilding my life from scratch. I'm dating someone new. His name is Marcus, and he's kind and honest and has never once made me feel crazy for asking where he's been or who he's with. He answers my questions directly, lets me see his phone if I want to, shows up when he says he will. Basic things that shouldn't feel revolutionary but do after what I went through. We take things slowly. I'm not ready to remarry. Might never be. But I'm open to the possibility of love again. Real love. The kind built on honesty and respect. Florence likes him, which counts for something. Cats always know. I still see Dr. Chen on Tuesday afternoons. Probably will for a while. There are layers to this kind of betrayal, depths of hurt that take time to excavate and heal. But I'm doing the work. The real work. Actually showing up, actually being honest about my feelings, actually processing instead of just pretending to be fine. Last Friday, Marcus asked if I wanted to grab dinner after work. Sure, I said. Any particular place? There's this Italian place I've been wanting to try. Romano's? My heart skipped a beat. Romano's. The place Daniel and I used to go every Tuesday, back when things were still good. Back before Friday nights became synonymous with lies. I could have said no. Could have suggested somewhere else. Could have avoided the ghosts. But instead I said, yeah, let's do it. We went to Romano's that Friday night. Maria was still there. Older but still warm and welcoming. She didn't recognize me at first, but when she did, her eyes widened slightly. It's been a long time, she said carefully. It has, I agreed. This is Marcus. She shook his hand, assessed him with that knowing look that older Italian women have perfected over generations, and apparently decided he passed muster because she smiled. I'll bring you the good wine, she said. We sat in a booth, not the same one Daniel and I used to occupy, but close enough that I could see it if I turned my head. I didn't. I kept my eyes on Marcus, on this man who was present and real and here. The food was just as good as I remembered. The wine was perfect. The conversation flowed easily. No awkward silences or carefully avoided topics. At one point, Marcus reached across the table and took my hand, not twisting my ring, because I don't wear one anymore, but just holding it gently. You okay? He asked. You got quiet for a second. I'm good, I said. Just remembering. Good memories or bad? Both, I said honestly. But I'm making new ones now. Better ones. He smiled, squeezed my hand, and we kept talking. When we left Romano's that night, walking to our separate cars because we still maintained our independence, I paused and looked back at the restaurant. At this place that had once represented safety and routine and marital contentment, before I knew that contentment was built on lies. It's just a restaurant, I realized. Just a place. It has whatever meaning I give it. It can be a shrine to a failed marriage, or it can be the place I had a great date with someone new. My choice. I chose the latter. That's the thing about healing I've learned. It's a choice you make over and over every day. Choose to trust again. Choose to be vulnerable again. Choose to show up for your own life instead of just going through the motions. Choose to believe that what happened to you doesn't define what happens next. I don't know where things with Marcus will go. Maybe somewhere wonderful. Maybe nowhere. But I'm not afraid of either outcome anymore. Because I know now that I can survive the worst-case scenario. I have survived it. I came out the other side damaged but not broken, hurt but not destroyed. Those Friday nights used to represent everything wrong with my marriage. Every lie, every betrayal, every moment of misplaced trust. Now they're just. Friday nights. Sometimes I go out. Sometimes I stay in. Sometimes I see Marcus. Sometimes I see friends. Sometimes I sit alone with Florence in a book and feel completely content. The therapist who never saw my husband on Friday nights but whose name he used to cover his lies, she was the catalyst for my freedom. Dr. Mitchell's phone call, as devastating as it was, freed me from a marriage that was already over. I just didn't know it yet. If she hadn't called, I might have gone on for years, making excuses, ignoring signs, slowly eroding into nothing while Daniel built his life elsewhere. I might have wasted more years, more love, more of myself on someone who didn't value any of it. Instead, I got out. I got free. I got the chance to build a new life on a foundation of truth instead of lies. So here I am, 2 years later, writing this on a Friday night in my apartment with my cat and my wine and my hard-won peace. Writing it down because maybe someone else needs to hear it. Maybe someone else is sitting at home right now, making dinner for a spouse who's at therapy, or working late, or out with friends, feeling that gnawing sensation in their gut that something isn't right. If that's you, I want you to know. Trust that feeling. Ask the hard questions. Don't let anyone make you feel crazy for noticing inconsistencies or wanting honesty. You deserve a partner who shows up, who tells the truth, who doesn't use your love as a weapon against you. And if you find out the worst, if you discover that the person you trusted has been lying to you for months or years, I want you to know. You will survive this. It will hurt like hell. You'll have nights where you can't breathe from the pain of it. You'll have moments where you think you'll never be okay again. But you will be. Not today, not tomorrow, but eventually. You'll build a new life, one where Friday nights are just Friday nights. One where therapy is real and trust isn't weaponized and love doesn't require you to ignore your own instincts. You'll find your way to Romano's with someone new or alone, or maybe you'll find a different restaurant entirely. And it will be okay. Better than okay, even. You'll be happy again. Maybe not the same kind of happy you were before, but a deeper, truer, hard-earned kind of happy that no one can take from you because you built it yourself. I know because I'm living it. My husband's therapy sessions were every Friday, until his therapist called and told me they never were. And that phone call, as much as it destroyed me in the moment, saved my life. I'll always be grateful for that. For the truth, however painful. For the ending that made room for a new beginning. For Friday nights that are finally, blessedly, honestly, just Friday nights.